What is up, guys? Coach Josiah here, AnastasiFitness.com. Today's video is all about the difference between training for strength and training for hypertrophy. There are a lot of variables that go into both of these, and by the end of the video, you'll know exactly how to use both styles of training to maximize your results inside the gym. Let's go. All right, so before we dive into the main differences, the first thing we have to understand is there are some big similarities between the two. The best way to look at this is anytime you take a set close to failure in the 1 to 30 rep range, you are going to build muscle, aka hypertrophy. But the lower end of this range is where more strength is built on a per set basis. Not to say you can't get stronger using higher rep ranges, it's just not going to be as effective as if you were training a little heavier. If that was confusing at all, don't worry, we're about to dive into the specifics. Now let's get into it. All right, so what exactly is strength training? When you're strength training, you're using heavier loads inside the gym with lower rep ranges, and this rep range is generally between 1 and 5 reps, meaning you're choosing a weight for an exercise that is much closer to your 1 rep max. The reason heavier weight like this builds more strength than any other rep range is it targets your CNS, also known as your central nervous system. Think of your CNS as something that sends a signal to your muscles to fire up, work, and produce a lot of strength. And when you're lifting the heaviest weight you possibly can, it forces the system to fire up. Now ask yourself this question. Have you ever seen someone really small at the gym, but at the same time really damn strong? A good example of this would be a powerlifter in a lower weight class. Some of these guys are 140 pounds and can deadlift over 600, and this isn't because of how much muscle they have, it's because they train specifically for strength using these lower rep ranges. Later in the video, we'll dive into how you can apply this style of training to also build more muscle, but first we're going to break down hypertrophy training. Okay, so what exactly is hypertrophy training? The best way to look at this is when you're doing sets in the 5 to 30 rep range. And the main difference between this style of training compared to strength is you are now focusing more on your muscular system as opposed to your CNS. I want you to think about doing a set of 5 for an exercise compared to a set of 15. When you do 15 reps, the first 10 are relatively easy and you don't have to give a maximal effort, which helps you really focus on a specific muscle group. Now take a set of 5. You aren't really shooting for the best mind-muscle connection. You're just trying to get the weight up with everything you have. That's the easiest way to think about a set that is focused on strength versus hypertrophy. Not to say those sets of 5 don't build muscle or those sets of 15 don't build strength. The effectiveness for each adaptation is just a little different. With all that being said, the biggest reason why using higher rep ranges is better for hypertrophy is you can do a lot more sets, which is directly correlated with building more muscle. And the reason for this is the more sets you do in the 1 to 5 rep range, the more fatigue you create on your CNS. And like I said before, your CNS tells your muscles to fire up and work, and if this system is completely burned out, your muscles won't even be able to operate in those high rep ranges. All right, now that we know the differences in reps, what are the main differences in choosing exercises? When it comes to strength training, you're going to be a lot more limited in your exercise selection, and the reason for this is some exercises just don't really make any sense to use in the 1 to 5 rep range. Take side lateral raises, for example. Your side delts are a really small muscle group. And if you go too heavy, it's really damn hard for your body to get the weight up without using multiple muscle groups. At the end of the day, when you're going this heavy, your body is going to try and use everything it has to get the weight up. So it's really difficult to target and isolate one specific muscle. The best way to go about strength training is to use compound exercises, which are movements that use more than one muscle group. To name a few, this would be something like your barbell squat, any deadlift variation, or pressing movement. And it's also probably best to avoid single joint movements like side lateral raises. Not to say you can't use isolation exercises for sets of 5, it's just most likely not going to be your best option. Using compound exercises allows your body to generate the most amount of strength and power from multiple muscle groups at once, which is exactly what we're shooting for with strength training. Okay, so what exercises should we use for hypertrophy training? The thing about this style of training is you really aren't limited at all, and there isn't any exercise you should avoid while training for hypertrophy. But one thing I will say is to experiment with the entire 5 to 30 rep range, because some exercises may give you better results if you do switch the rep range. And what I mean by that is everyone's body is different, and a set of 10 on incline may feel a lot better for you specifically than doing a set of 20. The way to determine if a certain rep range is good for you is the connection, tension, and burn you feel in the muscle you're training. If you're doing sets of 10 on curls and feel a great mind-muscle connection, a lot of tension and burn in your biceps, that's a sign that that rep range is perfect for that specific exercise. Also, make sure the muscle you are targeting is always the limiting factor at the end of a set. For example, if you try to do a set of 20 on squats, but your cardio stops you at 15 reps as opposed to your legs failing, then you should probably drop the reps down because we don't want anything getting in the way of taking the target muscle close to failure. All right, now it's time to dive dive into how we can combine these two styles of training to maximize our results at the gym. Before we break this down, one thing I will say is the goal of this method is to build as much muscle as possible and not so much to purely just build strength. The way I like to design programs for my clients and myself is to use the 4 to 10 rep range for about 75% of the exercises. This range is where you can get the best of both worlds for both strength and hypertrophy. And for the remaining 25% are for exercises that feel better for you when you do a set over 10 reps. It'll take some time to figure out which exercises these are for you, but from my experience, it's generally isolation movements that target a single muscle group. Another thing I will say is this isn't how you should train 100% of the time, because your body can eventually adapt to this style of training and your results may slow down. With that being said, I usually take a break from lifting this heavy and use the 12 to 20 rep range for about 1 to 2 months. This allows you to break through plateaus if you are experiencing them, and once you go back to lifting heavy, it will be a lot more effective since you took some time away from it. Okay, as always, here's a quick recap and plan of action for you guys to take with you today. First off, remember any rep range you use at the gym is going to build muscle and strength. Some rep ranges are just better for building muscle and some are better for building strength. When it comes to pure strength training, it's all about lifting heavy in the 1 to 5 rep range and targeting your CNS. And the best exercises for this are your compound lifts like your barbell squat, all deadlift variations, or pressing movements. For hypertrophy training, it's all about keeping things a bit lighter in the 5 to 30 rep range, doing a lot of sets, all while focusing on building a solid mind-muscle connection. You don't have to worry about what exercises to use, just be aware of what rep range feels the best for you during that specific exercise. As for combining the two, I personally use the 4 to 10 rep range for about 75% of the exercises, which gives you the best of both worlds for strength and hypertrophy. And the remaining 25% are for exercises that feel better for you, going over 10 reps. All right, that's it for the video today, guys. Hope it helped. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for plenty more videos just like this. And if you're confused on which exercises to do at the gym, check out my most recent video. I go over my favorite exercise for each muscle group and my favorite rep ranges I use for them. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's go.